at you with another cooking video. Today I am throwing down some smothered pork chops, so get ready. Okay y'all, so what I have here is about 1.5 cups of regular flour. I have 4 pork chops, pretty thinly cut. I got them in a package from Aldi's that was assorted cuts. 3 strips of bacon, 1 onion roughly chopped. I have black pepper, parsley flakes, some Creole or Cajun seasoning, paprika, seasoning salt, garlic salt, and some chicken broth. So we're going to start off by seasoning. Seasoning is going to be to your taste, but I like mine seasoned pretty well, you know what I mean? So I like to add a little extra. So black pepper, and I'm going to season on one side and then flip them over and use that same seasoning to season the other side. Here I have some parsley flakes. The one thing I forgot to tell you is that I like to season my flour with the same seasonings I'm cooking with. And you'll find that that gives your meal just a little bit extra flavor because we want these to be nice and flavorful. And I go ahead and I mix those in to our flour. So we have seasoned flour as well as seasoned chops. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lightly dredge our pork chops through our seasoned flour. So those will be ready to go as soon as our oil heats up. And we don't want them floured too heavily because this is not fried pork chops, it's smothered pork chops. So we don't want too much flour on it, just enough to give it a nice light coat. So you can see what I'm doing here. And shake off the excess and go ahead and put that to the side. Okay, here we are back again with our next step, and here is where that bacon comes in. So what we're going to do, our pan is nice and hot, and we're going to go ahead and put our bacon in. And oh, the flavor we are going to get from this, honey. So we're going to go ahead and cook that bacon down. It's going to get nice and crispy. But what we want to really do is render the fat from that bacon, and that is going to be the base for our gravy. So let's go ahead and let that cook, and I'll get right back to you. This is what we want. Do you see that fat that's accumulating at the bottom of the pan? That is what is going to make our gravy delicious. So we'll continue to let that bacon fat render and put that over. And it doesn't matter, you can let it get nice and dark and toasty because we want to get as much fat as we possibly can from that bacon. Okay, so now that we have as much fat as we can rendered from that bacon, I want you to go ahead and take that out the pan, but leave the fat in. Very important, because like I said, this is where all the flavor lies, in that beautiful bacon grease. And that is what is going to make our gravy delicious. So I went on and turned the fire down to about a 3 to a 4, because I want it pretty low. I don't want the onions to burn necessarily. I just want them to get nice and caramelized in that bacon fat. So then we will have nice translucent caramelized onion, and that's also going to give you a lot of flavor. So we're going to just let this go for a couple of minutes until the onions get nice and translucent, a little bit brown and crispy on the edges, and then we can go ahead and take those out. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so as you can see, the onions are nicely browned now. Got a little bit of color on the edges, and they're nice and soft and translucent. And what that has also done is given so much flavor. Now you've got the bacon flavor in there. You've got the onion flavor in there. Girl, it's going to be good. So I'm just draining those onions, and I'm going to put those to the side for now. Just the bacon grease, once again, infused with that delicious onion flavor. So what we're going to do, if you remember, we had that seasoned flour that was left over after we seasoned our pork chops. And we're going to give like 2 nice tablespoons there of the flour. And we're going to keep that moving and let that brown a little bit. But we don't want it to burn, so make sure you keep it moving, just so it gets a little bit of color but does not burn. We don't want it to burn, very important. Get that all out of the sides and from all over the pan. And just keep it moving. Not burnt, just brown. And then keep on, you see how I keep on moving it around because you don't want to let it sit too long in one place. So we're going to let that flour cook a little bit because nobody likes that uncooked flour flavor. And that looks to be a nice color right there. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding my chicken broth. And I'm going to start with 1 cup. And again, you want to pick up all those little bits from the bottom and get those mixed into the chicken broth. And as you cook it, it will start to thicken up. It only takes a couple minutes, and it starts to thicken up and actually look like gravy. Who knew, huh? Your mama knew, and if you stood in the kitchen beside her, you learned how to do this too. Who cooked with their mother or their grandmother or their auntie or anybody and showed them how to make homemade gravy? Oh, I'm not talking about the kind of gravy that you get in a jar. I'm talking about good old Southern homemade velvety smooth gravy. Whose mama taught them how to make it? I know my mama taught me how to make mine. How about you? So as you can see already, that is starting to thicken up nicely. And that was 1 cup of chicken broth that I added. And I usually like to make it about 2.5 sometimes. And it kind of depends on how many pork chops you're making as well. So I have 4 of the kind of thinly cut pork chops. So 2 cups should be fine for that amount. Of course, if you're making more, you will need a little bit more. So I'm going to add a little bit more, another cup of chicken broth here, and continue to move it around, so that way our gravy is not lumpy. We don't want lumpy gravy. Nobody wants lumpy gravy. It's nice, smooth, velvety gravy. And I'm just going to continue to add that chicken broth here And as you see, I never stop moving. I keep on moving it around because the minute you stop, lumps. And nobody wants lumps. And scraping all of that goodness from the side of the pan. Little mess here. And we're going to let that cook for a second or two and reduce just a little bit more. Oh yeah, honey. Yes. Okay. Onions back in, our cooked onions. Serve smothered pork chops with gravy, white rice, and mixed vegetables. I hope yours turns out as well. Bon appetit.